Hi there, you're watching Unhinged, a doll collector podcast. I'm Rosie.
And I'm Pablo.
And what are we talking about today, Pablo?
Today we're talking about the cost of making dolls, why dolls are expensive, what do we take in consideration when putting prices, our cost of making things.
All right, thank you for the full table of contents. I love that for us. Today's topic is why are dolls so expensive? And some of you might already know this, but I thought it would be fun to have a recap from two people who actually make dolls and sell dolls. So,
Yeah, I feel like for us it was really refreshing whenever any artist at the time that we were in the hobby decided to talk about this topic because it was kind of like a taboo back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So also, while we talk, we craft. It's what we do. So while we're chatting, I'm going to be, ironically, assembling some teeny tinies. What are you doing, Pablo?
I will be making a wig for someone. I wanted to send the doll today, but I don't know if it's going to be possible, but we will try our best.
I believe in you.
Yes.
Okay, so I have been in this hobby for, I think, 6 or 7 years now, which blows my freaking mind. But I'm going to mostly, like, my experience is mostly going to be coming from 2020 forward, which is really when I started, like, going hard on, like, making my own dolls and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where my point of view is going to be coming from. Pablo has been around, I think, slightly longer than I have.
Yes, but in terms of making dolls business, you were the first. I went a couple of years later, so my knowledge into some things it's smaller, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say smaller. I would say also just different because we do things a little bit differently. For
exactly.
Like some things the same things and some things different. So I would say, as from a collector's perspective, I would say in the last 4 years, doll prices have definitely gone up. When I'm buying dolls, when I'm looking at dolls, Playline dolls, BJDs, all of that, they're all more expensive. So, yeah, it feels like maybe 4 years ago, the average, like, ball jointed doll, like, artist BJD, Western artist BJD, I don't even want to say Western because you're a European artist, but I think I just mean non-ABJD doll was about $500 was kind of the average. But I feel like now I see way more prices in the like $700-800 range for like an MSD size doll.
Yes, I also think there's been a big uprising of a lot of artists that make things in Asia and are able to have really, really low prices.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, especially artists who are based, like, even, like, based in Asia, but not traditional, like, company dolls. I do feel like they have access, in a lot of cases, to cheaper services and all that. But anyways, we will get to that, I think.
Okay.
I think. I wanted to, like, kind of touch on, like, if we talk about BJDs being, say, 500 roughly in 2020 for an MSD size doll, like artist doll. And now they're at, even if we say 600, if we like lowball it, if we average it out maybe, that's still a 20% overall increase over 4 years, or like a 5% increase every single year, which is like, I know 5 maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but like it's a lot. Like we all know this shit, I think.
I do still think that increase should have been way more based on how prices have increased.
Yeah.
But we have that fight back between what it's a fair price, what it's a price that people would be able to buy, and all that stuff. So we kind of been growing a bit, not as fast as the world has been able to increase the prices in food, in gas, or anything like that, you know?
I feel like that's so true of I think that's something where even people who don't make dolls or make art for a living can empathize with, because the wages of everything have not been keeping up with like the cost of living, I think, in most places. And that doesn't change just because you do art for a living. So I think everyone can empathize with that, except for, the billionaires.
It's like we are the last hobby to be able to increase their prices somehow, you know?
I think so, but I do also think like digital artists, like people who draw for a living are kind of, I see them in the same boat a lot, especially with the rise of AI.
Oof.
That's a topic for another day. Yeah, that's a topic for another day, because I could rant about that for a while. But like, I wanted to talk about a little bit what's driving the prices up, like obviously cost of living and stuff. But before we get into that, maybe I think a quick breakdown, or a semi-quick breakdown maybe, of like our costs to make prototypes or a resin BJD, like what that actually looks like from two people actively doing it in two different parts of the world even. So
I do personally think that sometimes also people don't realize that the prices that were before usually were from big houses like Fairyland stuff that had like a big had a lot of people behind, so could make things faster. Whether we as lonely people need to up our prices in a way, I don't know if maybe I'm rambling too much, but I think that's also something really important to have in consideration, you know?
Yeah, you're adorable, because I know what you mean, like single people businesses, but you said lonely people, and I feel like, I mean
I'm
love
alone
that.
in my studio.
Me too, it's so lonely. Me and my dolls. But yeah, like I think also, like some of the bigger companies like Fairyland, etc., it falls into that, like, number one, if you have the numbers behind you, you can probably make deals with your casters or have in-house casting or whatever, and that's going to drive your price down a lot. But for people doing this all by themselves, it's the prices are not going down in the same way, and it's harder to keep your price stable because everything else is not stable.
And somehow compensate other prices for other things, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I would say, like, if I'm going to talk about, say, my material cost, which I think is, like, a good place to start, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will be referencing some notes for this, because ain't no way I was going to keep this in my little noggin. I went back in my good old Amazon, and I compared the prices I paid for like some of my materials in like my first years making dolls, and then compared to what I do now. So I'm just gonna go over some of that, and maybe like I'll say like what mine was, and then if Pablo has a comparison in Spain, like we can do that and compare. But I would say I checked for resin, and I went off a 1 kilogram bottle. For context, I typically use Elegoo ABS like, so do with that what you will. In 2021, which is my first instance of purchasing that brand of resin, it cost $30 for a kilogram. This is Canadian dollars, like just please keep in mind for me. I'll switch to USD in a little bit, but that's Canadian dollars. But I just bought some like 2 days ago, and it was $48. So it's 60% more expensive, if that is, context for anybody.
I think when it comes to, for example, some materials that we use, like resin and stuff, we also need to take in consideration that as time progresses, new resin comes out, and new, it doesn't only increase the quality of the product, but it also increases in the money. So if, for example, I'm talking about myself, if I had a doll that was 250 euros, maybe I paid like 20 euros in fast 3D printed resin, and now that resin is 40 euros, but my price kept at 250, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So how much was, like, I think you have your price per doll. You've already broken it down per doll because
Yeah.
you're fabulous like that. But what, like, yours was how much per doll maybe?
So I have a list here of all like everything assembled, and I would say that just in materials it's like 60 or 70 euros per doll, more or less, because I don't think there's a good way to calculate how much alcohol you use per doll, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult, especially not counting for misprints. I'll just go through like my comparisons, then I'll just shotgun them. I think for like a lot of the audience for this channel and for me and my YouTube is based out of Canada, US. So I think, but anyways, okay. So resin's up 60%. My 3D printer, I compared the Elegoo Mars Pro 2 that I bought in 2021. It was $400 Canadian dollars. And they don't even sell that one anymore. So the most comparable model I could find was the Elegoo Mars Pro or the Mars 3, and it's $280. So I would actually say that resin printers have gotten cheaper, which is the one thing that is like in our favor is that not the parts, not the supplies, the printers themselves have gotten cheaper.
I would even say that every year resin printers go a little bit cheaper, because I remember last year I bought my Saturn 2 and it was $500, and this year I like at the like 6 months later I bought the same printer because I needed two, and it was $350.
Yeah.
So you know.
That's like the one pro we have going. That's
wow! Oh my god, amazing!
Thank you, Elegoo. They're like, we're making up the cost in the resin.
Sponsor 60%. Us, please. Sponsor us.
Yes. Yeah. Don't come at me for saying your resin went up 60% in Canada. FEPs. So a FEP, for those who don't know, is like the little plastic layer in the bottom of like the tub you put the resin in. It's like a bathtub, and the bottom is like a thin plastic. A pack of 5 cost me $13 recently, and they were $11 in 2020, which is an 18% increase. My shipping boxes, the super basic ones, used to be $2 each in 2020. Now they're $2.50, up 25%. Sanding sponges are $19 now. Used to be $17 in 2021, up 12%. So, I mean, like, there's not a number there that's like under 10%. And that's like a 4 to 3 year difference. That's a lot. That's a lot in just like a couple years. You know?
And again, I think since our materials for production have increased in quality, the replacements for those materials are also more expensive, because the resin printers that we have now are double the size of the printer that we used back in the day.
That's
so
true.
If we take that in consideration, apart from the fact that prices have increased, it's like...
Yeah, that's true, because you need more alcohol in your like cleaning stations and...
Exactly.
That's true. Okay. I mean, it does save some time and electricity a little bit, probably having to run like one big plate instead of 2 small plates all the time, but anyways.
I would personally, I don't know how your shipping prices have stayed. Here in Spain, every year the shipping price increases, so we somehow have to balance that out also into the actual finishing cost of everything, you know?
Yes. So I charge shipping separately, so it's like unfortunate, it's like sad, but it's like the shipping cost is on the customer. I use like calculated shipping, but it is something where it's like shipping materials are more expensive, but yeah, it is harder to make sales when people go to checkout and shipping is suddenly Like it used to be like 30, but now it's 50. It's like I know, it sucks. It sucks a lot. Um, I think the other thing I thought about a lot when I was considering like what's gotten more expensive. Um, you've kind of touched on it, Pablo, about like cost of living, but cost of living also impacts like your cost per doll in the way that like in order to make dolls from home or like even prototype, generally you need a space for it. And like in Ontario, probably the whole world, electricity costs are up. Um, and if you're like me, like Pablo works out of a studio, I work out of my home office, which is 8 feet by 12 feet plus a resin closet. Like, and it's that sounds like a big space, but it's not a big space when you are in here with you and
Resin.
700 dolls like hanging out.
Resin and the smell and everything is like.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say you should have like a room in your house basically dedicated to your business and making dolls, shipping things out, because you don't want like if you have pets, you don't want them in it. Like you need space. You just need space. And in Canada, I don't know about Spain. Pablo maybe enlighten us in a moment, but like mortgage and rent prices, like having an extra room in your house does add cost to your rent or your mortgage. And okay, so Canada's going through we're going through it, but I think we have the worst housing crisis like in the world right now. Like I don't think I'm exaggerating saying that. Like a house that you could have bought for 100,000 or 150,000 in 2020 is going to be like $500,000, $750,000. I think $500,000 is. I don't even see houses go for that anymore. Like I would say $750,000 to start for a fixer upper. Like it's pain, and a one bedroom apartment will run you like $2,600 a month. In a not great area, in not a city. This is not like Toronto. This is like the woods. Like
people here, at least in Sevilla, a lot of people cannot afford a house here in what's the center, and they're going to villages. And the people in the villages are having to leave the places because they cannot even afford rent. I was talking with a friend the other day about that. But when it comes, for example, in my actual situation, I do have a place rented next to my house because, as I said, because of the whole resin thing and everything, I just cannot have that space at my parents' house with my sister that, for example, has asthma. So, that's whenever I'm able to go and find a place to keep doing this, I will have to, like you said, like you live in your house, but you also live with your studio, because it doesn't. I don't think there's many people that can afford a house and a place to make their work.
Yeah, exactly. Or like something big enough. Like I get so worried about people who buy like resin printers and have them like in their living rooms and stuff because they do make fumes. You do smell them. If I spend too long, like if I have a really, again, this is very privileged, but I have a really good like filtration air get it out system my husband put in for me in my resin room. But like if you don't have that, which you won't if you don't own the house, it's going to be like you might not smell it all the time, or you might get nose blind to it, but like you should not be breathing that all the time. Like that cannot be good for you. Like
whenever any of my friends came to visit me to the studio, they would smell the whole room, but I think I was so used to it that I didn't realize. And I think that's the problem, that your whole system, I used to have lots of headaches about that. And I don't think it's about, being privileged would be to have a space where you can do all of this. So,
Yeah. I mean, privileged in the, I'm very I very much acknowledge that, like, having like owning a house, like having a mortgage at like being a millennial with a mortgage is a privileged position. Like that's what I mean by that. Because that's kind of where I'm at. But I mean, even if, like, let's say you're not a millennial with a mortgage and you can't afford the studio space and you can't afford resin printers, basically your option at that point is you're probably paying somebody to make your prints for you. I know quite a few artists that have to have their prototypes printed, like outsource the printing. Yeah. And that's expensive too, because now you're paying the cost to print and all of that, and the service cost from somebody, and then the shipping cost. And you better hope it's right the first time, because otherwise you're going to have to fix it and then do it all over again. And that's super expensive. Like, I know that adds up quite a bit.
I do always highly encourage any new artist that wants to do something digitally sculpted, yeah, to buy even the cheapest 3D printed system for like $100 or something, because like it would you can even sell like prototypes to make for the cost of shipping the like, samples and stuff.
And I agree, but I would say if you don't have ventilation, please get a PLA printer, like an extruder printer. Like, it's probably still not great to breathe in, but that has to be better. It has to be better than resin fumes.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, please.
I know a lot of people makes the masters with PLA printers, so...
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you have to do that. But, yeah, like, it is something to consider in, like, the price of dolls, after all that. That space, electricity, renting a space, all of that is going up every single year all over the world. And, that increases our costs as well. And, yeah, that's, I mean, even hearing from Pablo, it's the same there. It's kind of depressing, to be honest.
I'm lucky and I don't have to pay any water, and my electricity, I don't know what kind of plan I have. I think it's not very expensive. It's like 30-50 euros a month having, and also thank God that the printers, I don't think they use a lot of energy, because at the end of the day it's just a light doing this. But like there's other things that we have that use a lot of electricity, you know?
You know what? That just made me think too, like, let me fling my scissors at everybody. But in the winter, if I want to print on my printers, I have to heat my resin room to 25 or 26 degrees Celsius, because otherwise it's 18 degrees Celsius. So I have to pay to run the space heater, which does use a lot of electricity. Otherwise, I will have 10 million print fails. Like, print fail, if you try and print something and it's too cold in there, it is not going to work. Probably.
Yeah. In summer, I have to put both of my fans that I have in my studio right now, they both have to face the printer, because if not, the colors start to dissipate and stuff, and it's like...
Opposite
it doesn't
problems.
matter what you do, you always have to pay more. You have to pay to put more things, and you end up having to pay more for everything that you're doing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think besides, like, material cost, electricity use, all of that, I think something we maybe should touch on is, like, I think our feelings or our thoughts maybe on, like, sculpting time. Like, so, my opinion, so, like, first-time sculptors might take, or will take, longer to finish their first doll. You're learning, you probably are going to make that same doll, like, many times. You have to, like, iterate and learn. So, like, let's just say it's your very first doll, and it takes you 200 hours. Give or take. Now I've not calculated that, but I'm just going to say 200 for the sake of saying 200. Very professional. Maybe my 8th doll, or my 3rd body, we'll say, because that's actually, like, kind of where I'm at, only takes me 100 hours. And the product is better overall, which is, like, very, I think, like, true life case for me. Um, Even though, in my opinion, the newer artists took longer to make the same doll, we'll say, I think that the pricing should remain roughly the same. Like, I don't think that should affect your market price too much because I think of it like when you start a new career and you're like entry level, and maybe you're getting paid $15 an hour, like minimum wage here, I guess. If you're doing the same job and getting way better at it and you can do the same work in way less time, you're probably just going to hopefully get a promotion doing the same thing of some kind, whatever. And like, you've got more skill, you've got more whatever. I think the price should stay the same. I think the end result is what quantifies how much the doll should cost and not the hours put into it.
I would personally say that in every job, the beginnings are not easy, and you end up having to, I don't know how what's the word, but like that happens into every job. So we should not be different. With time, things will get in line. Like for example, if I opened a bar here in Spain, the first years I would not be making that much money for how long how many hours I'm putting until I grow an audience, or in this case, until I grow experience by making things to be able to do it next time quicker and better. You know.
I agree.
It's like in every job.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like as you get more skilled, you don't get paid less per hour. Like your hourly rate is not going to go down. Like,
I mean, you're definitely more experienced in all of that. I'm lucky and I got a pretty good deal when it comes to my dolls. I had to go into someone to make my first 3 dolls, and it was like a little bit over 1K because my first dolls had a lot of parts and everything.
Yeah, like the fantasy parts and stuff, right?
Exactly. And then everything else I've been doing, I'm not able to say to calculate how many hours I've taken because I've done them when I was like right before sleeping or maybe in some breaks and stuff. So you know. So how have you been able to calculate more or less whenever you have to substitute any of the parts that, like for example, I had my Dremel broken and I had to buy a replacement, and these things are expensive.
Like as far as like when things break and stuff and how I calculate that into doll cost?
Yes.
I have not strong, like I just kind of like ballpark. It's something where it's like you can like I keep like lists of everything I've had to purchase for the business and stuff, because sometimes things aren't broken, but an upgrade is beneficial. Like I would say something that was insanely beneficial for me was a label printer, so I was not printing, cutting out, and like taping every label. Like sometimes it's just like better. So it's hard for me to go like I try not to count improvements into that, but like as far as things breaking, I haven't like sat down and broken down everything that has broken that I had to replace. I would say like I've been stupidly lucky. Where's wood for me to knock on? I've been stupidly lucky that none of my printers have like fully crapped the bed on themselves. Like they're still functioning. I take really good care of them, but also I have been very lucky that I haven't had to replace a printer. My Elegoo Mars Pro 2 she's on her last legs, though. I think I'm going to have to replace her either this year or next year. I would be shook if I got another year or year and a half out of that printer. But I would say like I have had to get a lot of replacement parts. And by replacement parts, I mean like FEPs, screen protectors, stuff like that. And like I had mentioned before, FEPs are only getting more expensive. You know, cry. But, you know.
So the thing is, I feel like we also have to take a lot of, like, because every time we buy a printer, it's like $400-500. And the thing is, we also have this kind of pressure of getting the last thing off. Like, just like imagine this kind of person that just wants to buy the last iPhone because it's going to work better, not only for us, but for our customers whenever we, for example, sell kits and stuff.
Yeah, like
because
upgrading.
It makes their life easier.
Or it prints faster. Like my 8K printer, I have a Elegoo Saturn 8K, prints like 3 times the speed of that Mars Pro. And I'm like, now I don't want it to break. But will I cry a river when it does? I don't know. I mean, I will a little bit because then I have to buy a new printer. But oh my god, like it definitely, at least with printers, when you have to purchase a new one, a lot of the times you're getting an upgrade, not a downgrade. So like as far as speed, like how efficient it is with the resin and how clean the prints are, how much sanding you have to do. So yeah, there's definitely that to consider as well, which is pretty nice. I was gonna say also, it just occurred to me, also cleaning supplies.
Oh yes.
Oh my god, do you know how much I spend in like Clorox wipes? Like, do you know?
Or even in paper.
Yes.
Even in paper.
Yep.
Like, that's so expensive. In gloves.
Yep. Also, if you don't have one, Pablo, I strong recommend getting a silicone kitchen mat. Like, I freaking love mine. I'm obsessed. They make cleaning up so much easier. Just hot tip to anybody
I
watching.
do also want to buy, like, you have like this plate that sticks to the 3D print, so I don't have to clean the plate all the time.
I don't have that, but I want it.
No, yes, you told me that you want it. Well, we both should buy it at the same time.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, I wanted to mention that, at least in my case, when I did my first pre-order, all the money I got, I spent to fund, and I said it before I even did the pre-order, it was to fund my printer, and it was to fund my iPad to 3D print. So, sometimes we don't, the access to that money, let's say, to those wins, does not come as easy or as fast, So I think for newbies, that's also that they have to take in consideration.
Yeah. Just as soon as you said that, I was like, I did have to upgrade my iPad because I had just an iPad, the regular one, and I would be running a full doll body and Nomad, or Blender was not even an option on that thing, but I would be running a full doll and it would crash every 10 seconds. So I had to get an iPad Pro. And now nothing crashes, but an Apple Care, it's so expensive. It's painful.
It is. There's going to be a minute where everything crashes and we are just going to have to keep buying and buying and buying. And it's this cycle that never ends,
Yeah, it's
I'm scared for my computer to break.
Oh, yeah, cost of business, but it's I wish I could choose. I always try and keep, from every pre-order, I do try and keep some money to the side, just to make sure when things happen, I have, I can fix it. I don't, spend my pre-order money as soon as I get it. I have, a business account, and I leave, okay, so, just quick disclosure, the day after my pre-order, I purchase every supply, I ask my caster to invoice me, everything. Everything must be paid within 3 days. That's how I do it. And then after that, I keep $1,500 to $2,000 in an account for shipping, to ship people's dolls to them. And then I'm okay, then an extra 1,000 for oh shoot, something broke, or oh shoot, someone's doll got lost in the mail, or that hasn't happened again.
Cross your finger.
But is that double cross? I don't know. How do I? But I jinxed myself. But yeah, it's it's so important to keep money aside for those wherever possible. Life happens and does things to you, but the anxiety I would feel not putting that much, because I also don't consider that money my money until people have their dolls. I have a really hard time spending it. It's not mine until they have their product. It's on loan. You know. Yeah. But
And it's not like you can like if a doll get lost, you can buy another one and just say I just lost $600. You know.
yeah, it's and like the time and yeah, there's it's yeah. I think like one thing maybe I like kind of have I guess like the lost in the mail part like I guess is more like cast dolls because I mean like you can 3D print another I guess that's time and effort but like maybe like for cast dolls like I know you haven't had a doll cast or I don't know if that's a plan of yours or whatever but like I can like talk about that briefly just to kind of I don't know like full spectrum this thing so it's not just 3D print dolls I guess.
Yeah.
So I would say something else I wanted to mention I guess I can mention here in this moment is cast dolls have a much higher overhead than 3D printed dolls, meaning your dollar cost to produce is a lot higher, which is why they're a lot more expensive. However, do not discount how expensive 3D printed dolls should be because they are so much more labor intensive when they're sanded, strung, assembled. Like that's why kits are kind of like the affordable option because you're saving the artist that labor cost. Like I have to sit and sand and string your doll for 2.5-3 hours and like add magnets and do all that. Like we have to pay ourselves for that. So that's kind of why they're still expensive, even though cast dolls do have a much higher overhead. So like
I was
no, you go. You speak.
I was actually gonna say that we somehow have a misconception that 3D printed dolls are cheaper. And maybe the actual product is cheaper, but if you, like you said, if you take in consideration all the labor that in this case the caster would have been doing, the cost is really, really similar. Maybe, of course, the casted dolls end up being more expensive, but not like by much.
I think by quite a bit. My 3D printed dolls, my like labor wise, I would say like see this is hard because I don't make cast tinies. And I don't make 3D printed MSDs. So I don't have a direct comparison myself for those things. But like I would say my cost I don't know, I've never broken down my dollar cost per doll for 3D print dolls. I should. I just market price them.
I think something a lot of people also may forget, even I forgot myself, is that we didn't learn how to handle all of this.
Yes.
How to put prices, how to calculate them, how to have everything in consideration. So the first years were kind of like in this fresh air, not knowing what to do, and maybe over time we start to realize
how things add up,
and we start having to change them slightly, and that slight difference ends up being like, oh, this person is putting their dolls for way more because they feel like they blah blah blah, and it's like, no, it's because I was underpaying myself since the beginning.
Yes, that happens too. Okay, so I'm gonna dolphin. I call it dolphining when you like have a topic and then you bounce here and then you bounce back. I'm gonna dolphin back to cast dolls. So yeah, like just to touch on like the overhead and like the cost of cast dolls, at least in my experience with my caster. I did caster shop when I was looking around and compared like waiting times and resin color tones and service. What the hell? I'm like stringing this and I just put like the foot. Like this is me paying attention really hard. I just strung the foot into the hip. Like, excuse me. Anyways.
That happened to me many times. It's not just you. Don't worry.
Okay, like my brain just completely farted for a minute. So like I did caster shop. I looked around. I compared like the colors that were available, how long like the estimates were, the finishing services, as far as like if I had to send like a primer doll, or if I could send like an unprimer doll, or if I could send like just a file or whatever. The molding fees, I shopped around, and I went with the caster I thought was the highest value per cost. It was not the cheapest caster, but it was not the most expensive caster. It was my like, and I've been very happy with this caster. I will say that. Okay, moving forward.
So I have a question for you.
Ooh.
If you don't mind.
Yes.
So I know since I don't know anything about cast dolls and how much those are, I would love you to be able to tell me, because I know there's a lot of people that print their dolls and prime them at home and then send them, but there's also some people that decide for their caster to print and prime. I would love to know if there's like a ton of price difference between letting someone do that job or doing it yourself, because I know you've done both.
Yeah, so that's actually such a good question. When you send a doll, say I'm going to print the doll, I'm going to sand it, I'm going to primer it. I'm not even for a minute going to count the labor cost. Goodbye, labor cost. I'm going to ignore you. I will only count the material cost. And the material cost for that 3D printed prototype and the primer, etc., is probably 60, 70, depending on how many cans of primer you have to go through and like all that. So we'll 60 to 70 maybe. Plus, for me, shipping to China in a service that is not going to take 3 months with no tracking, even that's going to cost you about $70 with tracking, and for it to be there in like within 2 or 3 weeks, it's like $125. So let's just say it's about $200 to primer the doll, sand the doll, print the doll, ship it off. You still usually have to pay some kind of finishing fee, because casters will still be like, oh, I don't know, maybe we'll tweak this, or maybe the hands aren't close enough together, or maybe the piece arrived broken. Has not happened to me yet, but yeah, it can happen, and it does happen, especially with like clay dolls and stuff. So in the end, you end up paying like the $200 to send it and make it, and then you end up paying the molding fee, and then all that's the same. So the caster I use is one of the ones that allows you to send a 3D print file, and the printing fee, I think, is $150. And then the like difference in the, oh, you sent me a basically finished doll and I just have to touch some things up, and the I have to do the whole thing, the difference between those is like $50. Like, it's about the same, and molding fees are the same. So it's the same, except for you have to do all the work and hope it doesn't arrive broken. I only finished the dolls in my studio, like my studio vlog. I only finished them myself because my caster has had an influx of people sending him files. So that's increasing his labor time, and it's increasing my wait time on getting samples. So I only did that to ensure that he had mostly finished pieces, or like basically ready to go pieces, and I could just skip ahead to the molding step, which is basically what's happening. That is the only reason I did that, because the cost is the same, but the work is so much more for you as a 3D print artist. If you do a clay doll, you have to send the doll. That's how it is. But oh,
no, I was going to say that even if it's more expensive, if I ever have to or want to cast a doll, I personally would rather someone that is so experienced make it for me.
That's my thought too, yeah.
Because I feel like it would reassure that my doll would end up looking the best, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like, because the thing is, especially if it's your first time, especially if it's your first doll, you won't necessarily know what caster ready finish is, or like little tweaks that they want. like, I learn something new pretty much every time I send my caster a doll. This time I learned that he doesn't like plastic putty because it's slightly softer than the resin and it can shrink a little bit when you're making the mold, so he has to recover the one little bit that was like showing on the back of the head cap. But I learned, I'm like, I will not use that again. And the same with using paper clay on top of resin. He didn't like that either. So like, I didn't do that, but he did mention to me he also doesn't like that. But anyways, you learn something new every single time. So even if you finish it to like pristine perfection, it moves beautifully, it poses beautifully, there's still a very strong chance there's going to be something wrong, and like there's no way for you to have known that. So like keep that in mind. So I think for your first doll, if you sculpt digitally, it is very smart to have somebody who knows what they're doing, like print your file and do all that. But yeah, I would say also, because I wanted to say like the costs, I've seen some information going around about how a cast doll only costs, like having a doll cast is $90. And they're like, that's the price. And it's like, kind of. So white base price is about $90 for an MSD size doll with my caster. However, that price can go all the way up to $150 depending on your resin tone, depending on, and that's not including any of the other fees we were talking about, like the molding fees or anything. That's not any of that. That's just your sample cost. Yeah, bright colors cost more, dark colors cost more, custom colors cost way more. So if you want a specific color, you're going to pay for it. And then after that, you have to pay the refining, like I said, molding, all of that. And then the dolls are cast. The caster is ready to ship it to you. And they are going to charge you about, at least in Canada, about $20 a doll for shipping. About.
I was going to say that because Rosie and I have like a Word file on the cloud and we kind of write it down, and I was reading what you were putting on that, and I was amazed for the amount of money you have to, like, just forget about how much is just to make your doll produce. Think about the whole shipping process. It's like, I don't know if half of the whole production thing, but like it's pretty expensive.
It's very expensive. It's a lot more than, because that's what I wanted to clear up that misinformation that, oh, it's $90 a doll. No, it's not. It's not. So it's like, yeah, like $90 to $150 for the doll, $15 to $25 probably for shipping per doll. And then like when things come into Canada, so like people in the US you guys are a little spoiled rotten if you don't have to pay customs on things like this. I don't know if you don't have to pay customs on any things like this, but like we have to pay customs on everything. I keep making faces, but our customs cost on anything that classifies as a collectible, a toy, a figure, a doll, anything is about 20%. So let's say I have a pre-order of 50 dolls. I'm not going to knock on wood. I hope that one happens. Have not hit 50 in a pre-order yet. Close, but not there. Almost. I am likely on an order of 50 dolls to pay about $1,000 in customs, just customs. And then I'm going to pay another $100 to $200 in brokerage and handling fees. Cry. And then I'm going to pay like $20 a doll is another $1,000. So that's like $2,100 just to have them arrive to me. That's not even for the dolls. So like, I would say one thing I'm really grateful for at this point is my caster hasn't increased their prices for shipping or for their molding fees or anything yet. I understand if they have to, because yeah, things are, yes, let me, but I've been like really grateful that that's one cost that hasn't gone up for me, because like the stress I would be stressing, guys, like It is possible. Yeah, it's possible they end up raising the prices in the future, and then I will cry myself a river because, yeah, it's stressful. Okay.
So for me, in my situation, so the tax. So this is something that I learned recently, okay? Because like as I said, no one told me how taxes and all that worked for freelance people. You know,
taxes.
It's like, what is IVA? What is a tax? What is the like? Why do I have to pay some money to the government for each doll that I sell?
Yeah,
that's my money.
Why did I have to pay tax on the doll arriving to me, and then I have to pay tax again when I sell it, and then I have to pay tax again just for being a business? Like, oh.
I mean, once you learn it, you understand it, but it sounds like crazy to me at the first. So the thing is, here in Spain, the tax is like at 21%. So that means that if I sell a doll for 250 euros, at 21% of those 250 is not mine.
No.
It's the government money.
Yeah, in Canada too, I was appalled that it's not profit. You're not taxed on the profit, you're taxed on the income, the gross number, the full cojones, the whole number, not including any of your costs. You can like write some of that off, to be fair, but it's not, the math doesn't math on it, just so you know. It does not equal out. It's not the same. It's not like...
Did you say cojones?
Like the whole thing. Yes, I know what cojones means.
Okay, I was like, she's a Spanish girl now.
It's like one of the few Spanish words that is like mainstream here for some reason. All right. Go figure. Of all the words. So like I broke down everything. So my breakdown on a $525 doll, I pay my caster, we'll say 100. We'll just average it out. We'll say some peach dolls at 90, some yellow dolls at 100, some dark brown dolls at 125. All right, we'll just 100. Plus 20 shipping, 120. Everyone get your calculators out, check my math, because I'm bad at math, but I double checked it, but please triple check it for me. So that's 120. Plus the cost of samples, finishing, molding, divided over an order based on a $50 order, which again, I have not quite reached, ever. So like, my costs are actually higher than this, but we're just going to stick with the $50 thing. Just for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so we're at 120. Once I divide those costs and my sample costs over the $50 order, I don't know what this is, we'll say approximately $30 on top, new total, $150. Then I have to pay 30% customs on the 100, just the 100 doll cost. We're now at $180. My budget for packaging, extras, which is not a lot. Like, I don't put in a lot of extras because I cannot afford to. The budget for that is $35. That includes like business cards, COA, stickers, shipping supplies, and like my basic like pillow bags. The new total is $215. On that $525, I pay income taxes, which per doll is about $68 a doll, and PayPal or Shopify transaction fees, around $11 a doll, for a new total of $294. This is so much math. I also pay a Shopify subscription fee so I can have a website and web hosting. I didn't even think about my domain or anything like that, but we'll just pretend that doesn't happen. We'll say my domain is a gift from me to me. Okay.
From heaven.
No, well, it's not heaven, no, because it comes out of my PayPal account. So let me just change my name to Heaven real quick. Yeah, I pay that Shopify subscription fee. So let's say for a 4-month layaway pre-order, I need it up 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after my pre-order. We'll say 5 months. I need 5 months subscription to have that pre-order. I divide that out over the $50, and the new total is about $300 a doll. All right, I'm going to round that. You like this? You like this game? Because I don't like this game.
It's depressing.
It's so
depressing.
It's like my heart is like, I was like vomiting when I realized this the first time, but like, not really, but
I was doing my calculation because like I said something like it's been a year since I don't make the calculations, and as you're speaking I'm getting more depressed because I didn't like last year I didn't have to pay for a place to work, I didn't have to pay my freelance tuition.
Yep.
So you know.
Yep. Okay. So our total is 300 at this point, okay? We're going to add on
Okay.
I know, and another one. Okay, we're going to add on $25 adult to account for home space, electricity, prototyping costs, which is like your primer, your upkeep, your clay or resin, your shipping cost for any like masters you have to send. I'm lowballing this really hard on this. This will put my profit at $200 adult based on the $525 I currently charge for an MSD Castell. That is a 38% profit margin. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Like we're just like, ooh, fancy. That accounts for designing, sculpting, prototyping, photographing, website updating, package designing, marketing. Did I say marketing twice? No. Okay. Packing the dolls, quality checking, working with casters, but blah, 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 blah. Did I say sanding?
Buying to customers.
Oh my god, yes, I forgot about that. Oh my god. Sending updates, newsletter. Okay, yes. All of that. All of the things. On a pre-order of $50, which again. Okay. Oh, you ever open your eyes real big and your contact lens tries to escape? Okay. That's what just happened to me. Anyways, that was weird. I need to tone it down a little, I think. Okay, on a pre-order of $50, we'll say my profit based on that is $10,000. Woo! Let's have a party, Pablo. $10,000. Have a $10,000 party with me. Stop the party. Stop it right now. I'm sorry, I'm being so stupid.
I like seeing you like this. I'm sure everyone is enjoying themselves.
Or they're like, oh my god, this is the last time. Okay. Let's remember that this is about 4 months of work, and that's not like while the pre-order's running. We'll say like to all of the things I just mentioned. That accounts for 4 months of full-time work at 40 hours a week, roughly. So that's $2.5K a month, or $15 an hour. That's the after-tax rate. I know that it's a little bit different. I've worked out the next number, also based on after taxes. The living wage in Northern Ontario, Canada, not a city, nothing crazy happening up here. Well, I wouldn't say that, but like it's not a metropolis. Like I can't like, yeah, there's not a lot to do. Okay, I'm making dolls. That's anyways. Oh my god, I'm so goofy. Okay, the living wage after taxes is $21 an hour right now. So I'm making $15. If I wanted to support myself, I would need, without kids, by the way, no children, which I do have, but $21 an hour. Like, do you have any, like, I know I've been, like, freaking rambling for a moment about that, Pablo. Like, do you have any kind of, like, comparison?
I have some, but I have to say that my sugar daddy applications are open in case anyone is curious and would love to support my business. And if they want to somehow share some money with my friend Rosie here, they're absolutely able to, and it would make me really happy. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
So the thing is, first of all, I don't know if you pay, like how much to pay for your, I guess, freelance tax. I don't know.
That's
if you guys
business
have that.
tax. That's what we have.
Okay.
It's like self-employed.
So I call it differently. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, right now, that freelance tax is like 85 euros a month. Even though next year or the year before, because like the first 2 years is like that money, and then it goes up to 300-400 euros a month, depending on how much you earn. Yes, I know it's crazy. It's a lot of money. I don't know how I'm going to make it, first of all. That's why I don't really like to talk about it, but
Yeah.
just for the sake of the podcast, I think it's really important to know.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know in general before getting into this, knowing the reality of it.
Like, it's so depressing, because, like, if I sell a doll for 250 and PayPal takes like 30 euros out of that sale because of you selling a product, and then from that 220 maybe the 21%, I don't know how much it is, let's say maybe another 30 euros, it's like I end up with 160 euros or so, and it's so depressing because it's like all of this work but we kind of have to survive somehow.
What's that TikTok song that is popular at the time of filming? That all that work and what did it get me?
All that work and what did it give me?
That's where.
Why did I do it?
Why did I do it? Yeah, that's. I feel it.
That's TikTok material, Rosie. That's TikTok material.
It's just us crying about the cost. I'll just put my cost breakdown on the screen.
Exactly.
But yeah, your business taxes.
So the thing is, I feel like when we all start in this, we somehow don't start thinking that we want to somehow make a living out of this, and the more you get into it, you start to realize maybe things are not like I was told to somehow.
Yeah, it's not
but,
unicorns and rainbows.
Exactly. It's a lot of selling your art collection. It's a lot of selling dolls that you have got for years. It's a lot of selling other friends' dolls. Because, there's some instances I had to consider selling some of my Rosie's dolls. And I think you all know that my dolls from Rosie are like the last dolls I can sell from my collection.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of, how do you say this word?
Sacrifice?
You have to, it's a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah, it really is.
But, I'm privileged enough to be able to say that even though I had some of those instances, and this, like the beginning of these years have been shit, I've been able to afford what I'm doing. And with that, I'm more than happy.
Yeah. That's the thing too, like a pause in the depression, to just say like, I am also like you currently able to make it work, and I feel like doing fairly well, but it's hard, and it makes it less hard that it is like the thing I love doing, like more than anything. Like I have ADHD. Let me say that every podcast, but like it's relatable to everything I do, because it's everything I do. But for me to find something that I love and then not move on from it, like after a short period of time, like I've been here for like 6 or 7 years, and like that's unheard of in my whole life. So the fact that I can like do the thing I love all day, I am so extremely grateful for anybody who like is buying the dolls, sharing the dolls, watching my videos, like listening to the podcast, like all of this, like the support is incredible, and like I'm just forever grateful that like I get to do this all the time. So a quick thank you to everybody for making that the reality.
100%. And the cost of living for our customers have also increased,
I know. And
so
yeah, it's so like being mindful of that, right? Like I had like posted something a while ago about how sad and conflicted I feel posting about like a pre-order I have open, when I know people are having a hard time buying groceries, and I'm just like, please buy my doll. And like, it's so conflicting, because it's like, but you also, I think I said it was like, oh my God, I can't remember the word now. The paradox of it is the word, paradox. Where it's like, okay, I have a hard time asking people, or like being like, look at my doll. Don't you love her? How can I make you buy her? Like, it feels gross to me when I know people can't buy groceries, but also, like, I low-key need people to buy her so I can buy groceries. Like, it's so messed up. That's, like, a societal issue that, like, nobody should have to feel like that's messed up. But, you know.
I was talking about exactly that the other day with someone, and not to try to get political in this podcast, please, but, like, I feel like we live in a circle or a cycle where the small business owner needs the customer to be able to buy something because the government is asking them for more and more money for their small businesses taxes, but the customer needs to make more money for the government because the prices are going up.
Yep.
So they both cannot coexist, but they both can coexist with the government or whoever is up there, you know?
Yep. I mean, like, not to get political on this podcast or anything, but the only people not being taxed are the only people who can afford it. So, that, you know, if any, you know what? If Jeffrey Bezos, if you're out there, if you would like to buy my dolls, please. Please! He won't.
So
he doesn't have taste.
There's been a news here, and this is more on a personal note. There's like a business here that are like supermarkets called Mercadona, which would be like the Costco there or something.
Okay.
That they've this is the best year financially for them.
Yeah.
How can this year be one of the best ones financially when they've said many times that the reason why the prices have increased is because, I don't know if you like I'm wording that well, but
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It should be somehow not their best year financially.
Yep.
So that means that they're just asking us for money each year, even though they know that we're suffering in a way.
Yep.
But you know.
Yep. In Canada, we have a grocery monopoly, and by that I mean all grocery stores in Canada, almost all of them, are owned by 3 companies. And because there's no competition, those 3 companies can do whatever they want with the prices. And they're telling us that their costs are up so high, and the farmers are charging so much now, and it's so expensive. And meanwhile, we come to find out that it is actually record profits year over year, quarter over quarter. But anyways.
I just doesn't make any sense.
No.
But anyways. Not to get political.
I don't know. I feel like being able to buy groceries shouldn't be political, but you know, that's...
Exactly.
I want to bounce back. We're gonna dolphin. We're gonna go back. I want to take a minute and go back to my $10,000 pity party I was having a minute ago. I compared all of my costs, the exact costs I just gave everybody a freaking TED Talk about. And I added everything up, did all of that, and my 2020 numbers, based on a $50 order, would have had a profit of $245 instead of $200. So that's a 47% margin versus a 38% margin. On a $50 order, my profit would have been $12,250, and my hourly rate would have been $19 an hour. So, like, $4 an hour higher. But the real kicker is that living wage here, at that time, was more around the $17 an hour mark. So, in 2020, doing the exact same work I do now, making the same things, at the same price, I would be able to like pay for my whole life, like everything I need. And now if I wasn't like in a relationship and I didn't have it wasn't a dual income situation, I'd be in the hole every month. And that I'm not saying all of this as a feel bad for me, because do not. I get to do what I love. I'm very grateful to be in the situation I'm in. I'm very grateful for the support. I'm saying this because I need to quickly dispel or longly dispel the idea that because we're selling $500, $600, $700 dolls, or even $200 or $300 like 3D printed dolls, that we're loaded, because it's just not the reality. And I just think anybody who thinks that way needs a math class. And I need a math class, okay? Like, I need a math class. I'm so bad at math, but I can't argue addition, subtraction. It's not, no one, okay, not no one. Someone's making a lot of money. Most of us are not. And we're not,
Exactly.
And nobody in this community, not no artists, I'm sorry. Most artists in this community are not doing this for the money. I left a job where I made almost twice what I'm making now. Because, maybe not almost twice. I would say maybe 40% more than I was making now. To do this. Because I love it. Because I could. And it's just like, I think for myself, and I think for way more artists than people think, these are passion projects. And they're side hustles until people can get to a point, if they're lucky enough to get to a point like I did, where it was possible to do it all the time. Yeah. And Bryn. Thank you. I'll be here every Thursday. No, just I won't be.
It's been such an interesting podcast, I have to say, Rosie. It's been a lot of emotions over,
I know. I think I think this is the most feelings I've had in one of these so far. I just want to touch on quickly what you were talking about, Pablo, and something you said right at the beginning of the podcast, which I think really resonates with me, probably resonates with a lot of artists, is how do we balance our costs and our supporting ourselves? How do we balance that with trying to be affordable, approachable of our customers and the situation that they are also in?
I think at the end, there's nothing more fulfilling for an artist than for people who have our art.
Yeah.
And if that means somehow that we have to make something a bit cheaper or have a more balanced price, so be it, So be it.
That's how I feel about it too. I do also think, in the same breath, that at the same time, the idea that any artist who wants to be able to buy food and shelter is a money grabber, take that opinion and throw it out the window, because that's just
not the case.
That's not the case. Anybody doing any kind of service or making any kind of product that people like should be able to live off full-time work. I just feel like that's the bare friggin' minimum.
Exactly.
I've already made sacrifices to keep my prices the same. I don't know that I can continue at $5.25 in perpetuity. Forever. I really want to. I used to have seamstress made bags made by Stellar Revolution, who sadly is no longer in business. I used to buy glass eyes for all of my dolls when I sent out, and the glass eyes are $10 to $15 each, and so I learned how to make resin ones, because in order to keep prices the same, I needed to, if it meant more work for me, it meant more work for me. I had to do what I had to do. And I now have to pick up the slack, because like I said, we're not meeting that living wage standard. I have to pick up the slack with extra work like commissions or small art projects. And things like YouTube, but YouTube, it ain't what you think it is, my friends. It's a passion project as well. I am working on offering and having a range of affordable options, simple dolls, different art pieces that people can purchase that aren't like full expensive dolls. But yeah, like if my caster increases their prices, it's we're on the line. Yeah.
We can only do so much.
I agree.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And if anyone don't want to understand that, that's not on us.
No.
No.
I just want anybody who's still listening at this point to... I hope that anybody listening has come into this with an open mind and has heard what we're saying. And because we hear you. I'm listening when people say they can't afford things or asking for longer layaways or like I'm trying to make it work. And I would just hope anybody who thinks otherwise needs to see this for what it is. And yeah, remember we as artists want to support our customers and you support us, we support you. The community grows or improves, like High School Musical moment. We're all in this together. We can't play that song though because it's copyright. So, sorry, but yeah, we're all in this together. Okay, no, sorry. Anyways, yeah.
So I think you touched on something really smart. That we somehow still give options to our customers and the people that likes the work.
Mm.
I can only speak to myself that I thankfully am able to print dolls on different sizes that are more affordable, which are still as great, but are definitely more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to keep thinking that at least both of us are still artists that keep pushing and keep trying to be on that affordable route. So, if we take that into consideration, we are happy just to be enough as for now, in that sense.
Yes.
We do what we can.
Yeah, I think I feel good about what I'm doing and the prices I'm charging, the work I put in. I feel good about it, and that's at the end of the day, that's really all I can do.
I want to add something since you also got emotional with your Barbie.
Okay, I don't mean to monologue. I just get really in my feels.
I think it was so good, Rosie. It was so good.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm someone that is not able to afford dolls too.
Mm.
I cannot. I cannot speak for any other artist, but I cannot. I've been able to get a Penelope.
Mm-hmm.
I say Penelope because that's her name in Spanish.
That's okay.
Thanks to Rosie. So since the beginning, she has supported me by doing all her pre-order weeks and leaving them to me. And thanks to that, and the people that have bought wigs for her pre-order, I've been able to pay the money for that doll with it. And I just wanted to mention it because when I was able to do that and I was able to get it for I think I just ended up having to pay the shipping.
Basically, yeah.
That's how some of us also are able to get dolls. We struggle too, and we know firsthand how hard it is. So
yeah,
please never think that we come from a place of people are going to be able to just buy whatever shit that we put on, because it's not like that.
No, it's not like that at all.
When will it end? All the
It's so funny because when you started monologuing, I didn't go, when will it end? In my head, I was going, I'm just Ken.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Oh my god. I need to rewatch the Barbie movie.
I mean, me too.
Oh my gosh. Barbie movie watching party. Let's go. Oh my gosh. This was... Wow. I think for the next topic, I think we're gonna, like, next episode, we're gonna have to maybe pick a slightly more lighthearted topic because I'm a little soul crushed, but I'm also, like, feeling very inspired and grateful right now. It's a very weird mix of emotions.
It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
This podcast has definitely been, this episode has been a roller coaster, but I am really happy. I think as for now, the 3 episodes that we have been able to provide are really different and really show a different face of us in a way.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
happy.
I'm really happy with how it's going too. And so I've been like asked a few times if we're going to be having guests on the podcast. And Pablo and I have discussed this already, but we wanted to make sure we had a few episodes under our belt. For me, this is important because if I'm going to have a guest, I need to be able to send them a couple episodes and say, this is the vibe. This is what you're walking into. It's not formal. It's not interview with an artist. If anybody saw that is like, I'm very like, let me ask you questions. It's very like uptight, that series. I don't know uptight, but anyways, it's an interview. This is not these aren't interviews, and I don't want any guests coming in. It's not an interview. They need to be able to walk in. Well, click the button and join us. And like hop in. Like that's obviously not expecting everybody to be best friends and stuff, but this is the vibe, and we just need people to know what they're walking into, basically. If that makes sense. That's why it was important for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I am hoping we get a guest for the next episode.
Okay, so this was episode 3 of Unhinged Adult Collective Podcast.
I'm Rosie.
And I'm Pablo.
If
you're already subscribed, thanks so much for subscribing.
Yes!
Yeah!
And if you're new here and like the content, please consider subscribing. As always, we hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!
See you in the next one. Bye!